Alex Hormozi has bought, built, and scaled businesses past $100 million a year. And when you listen to how he does it, there is no secret. It's just math. 5 or 6 little equations. You could do it on a napkin. What a customer is worth versus what they cost you. How fast you can get your money back. Where the one bottleneck is. That's the machine. So, a fair question. If the math is that simple, and he says it out loud for free, why is not everyone in this business printing money the same way? I've run a lead gen agency for the last 7 years. I've bought leads from dozens of different sources, sold leads to brands, some of them publicly traded, built call centers with 100+ seat floors. And I tried to run this exact math on my own company. Lifetime value over cost to acquire, payback period, profit per customer, real Hormozi stuff. And I could not. Not because the math was hard, because every one of those equations needs one number I did not actually have. What did this lead turn into? Did it close, and for how much? A lead left my hand, that number vanished. So I was plugging a guess into the most important spot in every formula. I was doing Hormozi's math with a hole in the middle of it. So today, I'm going to walk you through the exact equations Hormozi grows businesses with, the same ones I use. I'm going to show you the one number that makes or breaks every single one of them, the number most operators in this industry have never been able to see. By the end, you will know whether you have been running the math or guessing at it. Let's get into it. Let me set the table before we touch a single equation. Everything Hormozi optimizes comes down to a handful of plain things. What a customer is worth, what they cost to get, how fast the money comes back, where the one bottleneck is, how much profit is left at the end of all of it. None of this is advanced, and that is the point. But every one of those equations is only as good as the numbers that feed it. And in this business, the most important number is the one you cannot see. Garbage in, confident garbage out. The industry word for what happened to a lead is its disposition. Did it get called? Did it get booked? Did it close? And for how much? That single fact is the input Hormozi's whole machine runs on, and it lives in the gap right after the handoff, the one place operators forget to look. I spent years trying to solve this. At GreenWamp, I wanted a straight line from every ad dollar to close sale, both for my own shop and every brand that we help scale. By the time I tallied the developers, the broken integrations, and the weekends spent duct taping automation workflows together, the price tag hit $175,000. And that was just a hard cost to get 7 different tools, the CRM, the dialer, the ad platforms, to even acknowledge each other. Even then, the truth stayed out of reach. Half the data lived with me and half lived with our buyers, and they never shook hands. Without that connection, I could not give a client a real cost per sale. I could not tell them where to step on the gas or where to cut. I was basically just doing the most expensive arithmetic I could on a guess. By the end of this, I'm going to show you that the equations are not the moat. The data underneath them is, and that is the thing that decides who wins in the next 10 years. So let's start with the equation Hormozi talks about more than any other, the one that decides whether you are allowed to step on the gas. You have probably heard this one as LTV to CAC, lifetime value over cost to acquire. But the version Hormozi actually uses is lifetime gross profit to CAC, what a customer actually leaves you with after the cost to deliver, not the revenue. That's what matters, and you'll see in a second. CAC is what it costs you to get the customer. If a customer is worth a lot more than it costs, you scale. If they cost more than they're worth, more spend just loses more money faster. This is the heartbeat of how Hormozi decides where to put money, and the target is not a flat 3-to-1. It depends on how hands-on your business actually is. A fully automated business with no humans in the loop, like a software, he puts it 3-to-1. Some human element, more like 6-to-1. A high-touch operation with people all over the process, 9-to-1 or higher. A lead gen agency running a call center floor sits at the last bucket. So 3-to-1 isn't your bar, it's the floor for the easiest businesses on earth, and yours has to be a lot more. Now the trap. CAC feels easy. You know what you spent, but it's not the cost per lead, it's the cost per actual customer. And to get that, you have to know which leads became customers and why. That is the disposition again. If you cannot see what closed, you don't know your real CAC. You know your cost per form fill, and you're calling it CAC. And when you guess, the ratio lies to you in the most dangerous direction. The cheap source looks like it has a great ratio because you never saw that it does not close. So you scale the loser and starve the winner, and the math told you to do it. Here's the truth in practice. We ran a source that looked like a home run on paper. $37 cost per lead. It was our cleanest CPL in the building. If you ran the math on the form fills alone, the ratio told us to pour every dollar we had into it. So we stepped on the gas. Then the dispositions hit the table. We looked at the contact rates, the closes, and the revenue per deal. The cost per sale wasn't $37. It was $12,500. The leads were cheap because they were trash, zero intent, dead phones, and the wrong people. The ratio didn't just shrink, it inverted. Our best channel was actually bleeding us dry. We only caught the leak because we own the data past the handoff. Most operators never see it. They fall in love with low CPL and they keep financing a guess. Bad ratio at least tells you to stop. The next equation is sneakier because you can pass it on paper and still be going broke. Hormozi's favorite way to grow without running out of money, he calls it client finance acquisition. And the rule is specific. In the first 30 days, a new customer should bring you more than twice what it costs to get them and to serve them. Your acquisition costs plus your cost to deliver. Doubled. Clear that, and one customer doesn't just pay for itself, it funds the next two, and growth starts financing itself instead of draining the bank. Operators love it because if you can get your money back in weeks, you can scale almost as fast as you want. Since you're never fronting cash you do not get back, it turns growth from a gamble into a loop. But there's a catch. Payback is your acquisition cost measured against the cash a customer brings in over a window, and both halves need the truth. If your real cost per sale is double what you think because half your cheap leads never close, your actual payback is far longer than the napkin says. You think you are financed in 30 days. You are really underwater for 90 days and you're scaling on top of the hole. And it stays invisible for the same reason the ratio lies. You can easily see what you spent, but not clearly what came back per source. So the math runs on numbers you assembled from guesses and clients say so. I witnessed this cycle firsthand with ADT and SunPro, a massive buyer we pushed in home service. They arrived with one obsession, the price per lead. I warned them that the cheap leads that they were hunting would eventually bleed them out. Low intent, brutal contact rates, and close percentages that could not sustain a floor. On day 30, they felt like they were heroes because the volume was high and early revenue was starting to trickle in. By day 60, the math had caught up. Contact rates cratered, cost per sale exploded, and the entire unit economics of the business inverted. They actually abandoned the entire vertical. The price per lead never moved. It stayed cheap the whole time. The only thing that changed was the payback window finally revealed the truth. In the first month, they were just guessing. The real cost stayed hidden until the pipeline settled. They had scaled a loser for 60 days, and the math they used to do it was a lie from the jump. So far, this is all dollars in and dollars out. But Hormozi's most famous equation is not about money at all, and it is the one most operators in our world skip. All right, let me be real with you for a sec. Everything we just did, the ratio, the payback, it all falls apart if you cannot see what your leads turn into. Connecting your ads, your CRM, your dialer, so you can see the real cost per sale and real revenue per source is the exact thing I built Attribute to do. If you want to see what your own numbers look like once that gap is closed, there's a link below. No commitment, you will finally see the inputs your math has been missing. Hormozi says how badly someone wants to buy comes down to 4 things: the dream outcome they want, how likely they believe they will get it, how long it takes, and how much effort and sacrifice it costs them. Raise the first 2, shrink the last 2, and the offer gets easier to sell. So let's bring it to our world. For a lead operator, perceived likelihood of achievement is the whole ballgame. A buyer keeps paying when they believe your leads will turn to revenue. And the most convincing way to raise that belief is to show them it already happened with real outcome data, not a promise, which means you cannot strengthen the most important lever in Hormozi's value equation if you cannot see outcomes. Trust me, the leads are good is the weakest version of perceived likelihood. This is exactly what the last batch turned into for you, is the strongest, and it's only possible if you own the data after the handoff. Here's the reality of what that shift delivers. When it comes to our renewal calls, we stop showing up with a stack of cost per lead reports. You cannot build a moat on CPL. Instead, we walk in with actual closed revenue. We spent 30 grand and here's exactly what it made you, split out source by source. This is not a defensive conversation, it's a demonstration of profit. And the results show up in retention. Most lead buyers bounce after 4 months because the data is too cloudy to trust. Our clients stay on average 14 months. That's 10-month delta isn't a clever pitch. It's a natural byproduct of a buyer finally being able to see the math work for them. So you've got the money math and the offer math. The last piece decides where you even point all of it, and getting it wrong is the most expensive mistake on this whole list. There's an old business principle Hormozi leans on hard. Your whole operation is held back by one main bottleneck at a time, and working on anything except that one bottleneck barely moves the needle. In lead gen, the bottleneck is usually one of a few things: the source, the offer, the speed your leads were called, or the people who are actually selling it. Fix the true one and everything jumps. Pour effort into the wrong one and you work twice as hard for basically nothing. And that's the trap. When you cannot see the full journey, you guess which one is the bottleneck, and your guess is wrong in a predictable way. You blame the thing that's easiest to blame. It's usually top of funnel or the leads. That's the oldest fight in the industry. The buyer says the leads are bad. The seller says the team isn't working them, and for years it was impossible to prove either way. You see, the data names the real constraint instead of guessing at it. A pile of wrong numbers and dead contacts points to the source. A 45-minute average callback delay points at the team. Same situation, two different bottlenecks, two different fixes. The math cannot pick the right lever until you can see the whole journey. Here's a situation that still sticks with me. We watch a lead source fall off a cliff, month over month. The numbers tanked and the close rates bottomed out. The immediate assumption in the room was that the source had gone bad. Trash leads, a shift in targeting, or something that the source broke. We were seconds away from killing the budget. Then we pulled in some more data and looked at the actual routing of the leads. For the entire month, those leads were being fed to reps that had the lowest close rate on the entire floor. The lead quality hadn't moved an inch, but the human variable had changed. We rerouted the flow and the performance snapped back almost instantly. Had we pulled the plug, we would have strangled a winning channel based on a complete misdiagnosis. We only caught the leak because we could see the entire chain, from the ad to the lead to the specific rep to the close. Most operators can only see the first two, and that is exactly where the wrong conclusion lives. So once you can see which number is real and which lever is stuck, you realize the equations were never the hard part, and that is where this whole thing flips. All right, let's bring this home with the last lever. Hormozi will tell you he optimizes for gross profit per customer, the actual money left after cost, not revenue, not vanity. Profit per customer is the sum of everything we just did: real CAC, real payback, real conversions, the right bottleneck fix. Every one of those needs the same thing: the truth about what your leads actually became. So the reframe in one breath: Hormozi's math is not a secret. He says it out loud for free. The reason it works for him, installs for everyone in our world, is that he can trust his inputs and most lead operators cannot. You do not have a math problem. You have a data ownership problem. The equations are grade school. The clean number to run them on is the rare thing. And it matters more this year than last. Your client can now rent the same AI you can, run the same formulas, in-house the ads. The equations get commoditized to zero. The one thing that cannot be rented, scraped, or generated is your own clean record of what actually turned into money. That is the asset. That is the moat, and it compounds every day you run out it. That hole in the middle of every equation I told you about at the start, the number that vanishes when a lead leaves your hand, that was always the whole game. Own that number, and Hormozi's math finally worked for you. Keep guessing at it, and you are doing expensive arithmetic on a lie. I want to be dead honest about something. Greenwatt is not just a case study. We live in these numbers every single day. I did not engineer attribute to sit on a pitch deck while I retreated into some spreadsheets. The exact data layer, the disposition engine, and that surgical cost per sale visibility, that is the literal nervous system of my entire shop. I eat my own cooking. That carries weight because the industry is full of people selling a solution they would never actually trust to run their own business on. Here's the reality. The operators who own the entire chain, from ad dollar to lead to rep and finally to revenue, are the ones currently building a moat. The ones who still worship a low CPL and praying the math settles in their favor are already losing. They just haven't seen the bank statement yet. So let's get into how you actually bridge that gap. The operators who win from here are not the ones who memorize more equations. They are the ones who own the numbers the equations run on. Stop chasing fancier business math and start owning the one number all of it depends on: what your leads actually turn into and why. The equations are free. Alex hands them out for nothing. The clean data to run them on is a rare thing. It is what decides whether all this math grows your business or just decorates a guess. If that landed, the next thing that you should watch is right here.